Greetings, Imhotep, Uncle Jason Nebneb, Tuaneta. Hope you can hear me. Hope everyone can hear me. It's been a while since I've been on. Lots been going on. But what I'm going to do is before on my page, I was reading from a book from a very profound author that I'm very fond of. Hope you can see that. Keep in mind, excuse the camera and everything. I'm working off my laptop. So right now, this book is by Mooji. Excuse me, trying to get this right. There we go. Mooji, and the title is Vaster Than Sky, Greater Than Space. You can get this book in Mooji.org. Has in the back of the book. You can order it online at Mooji.org shop. There's much more information here. If you want to see videos, I've listed all of that in the description. All of the links are in the description. But again, we left off, if I'm not mistaken. I left off in the middle of a chapter, which was the heart's way to the truth. So in this chapter, Heart's Way to Truth, I left off on the title, Beyond the Psychological Mind. So I'm just going to read a few pages from this section of this chapter that he covers. This is a concept, obviously, going beyond the psychological mind, and probably his views or his take this book was based on, and some that I resonate with too, on a journey or said sadhana, which is like a journey, spiritual journey. So I'm going to read a few from this. So stand by. Hopefully, I don't know if anybody's tuned in, but if you can hear me, that's great. If not, maybe later I can check this video out, and if I can turn the sound up, that's good. But I'm going to read a little bit from here, okay? The title of this section is Beyond the Psychological Mind, and it reads, we feel that the sense of ourselves as the doer of actions must be in place in order for things to get done. However, when we are quiet, meaning when we don't engage with thought, activity, and instead rest in the natural sense of being, we quickly discover that the vital force expresses by itself. Hold on a second. I'm going to turn this television down a little bit so maybe you can hear me. I don't know if that background noise is coming through, but give me 1 second. Okay, I'm back. So, again, I'll read that sentence again. However, when we are quiet, meaning when we don't engage with thought, activity, and instead rest in the natural sense of being, we quickly discover that the vital force expresses by itself. And it does so spontaneously without any intention whatsoever. If you truly give this a chance, you will experience the beauty and harmony of life when you are rooted in being rather than doing. I read that again. If you truly give this a chance, you will experience the beauty and harmony of life when you are rooted in being rather than in doing. Okay? Goes on to read. Before the mind may have had much more influence. If it said, "Come, let's go," you went. If it warned you, "Don't go," you stayed put. It was as if you were the mind's servant. But as you merge evermore into the unity heart, the psychological mind's voice will become but a distant murmur. Again, I read. Before, the mind may have had much more influence over you, your mind. If said, if it said, come, let's go, you went. If it warned you, don't go, you stayed put. It was as if you were the mind's servant. But as you merge ever more into the unity heart, the heart's unity, the unity of your heart, the psychological mind's voice will become but a distant murmur. So it gradually fades. That dominant influence of the ego mind gradually fades away in the background. Remember, my mind, or remember by mind. Remember, by mind, I am not referring to mind in its purely practical functioning. This will continue, and there is absolutely no trouble with that. So the mind's practical physical functioning, you know, what you need to use your mind for, to hear, see, smell, all the senses, all the reactions, emotions, and everything, that is not what he's referring to. Okay, that will continue with no trouble. There's no trouble with that version of the mind. What he's really referring to is the ego mind. And I'm going to go ahead and read it, so I don't want to spoil. Okay. Then it goes on to say the practical mind does leave behind the bad smell of identification. Oh, I read that wrong. I read it. The practical mind doesn't leave behind the bad smell of identification. Okay. So the practical mind, the one you use to function with the body, that doesn't leave behind a bad smell of identity or getting caught up in identity. The psychological mind, on the other hand, the psyche mind, on the other hand, is the aspect of consciousness that is identified with and caught up in the personal story. I read it again. The psychological mind, on the other hand, is the aspect of consciousness, or is that aspect of consciousness that is identified with and caught up in the personal story. It reminisces about the past and projects into the future. I read again. It reminisces about the past and projects into the future. This psychological mind. It tries to control life and make it accord with the ideas it has of how things should be. I'm going to read it again. This psychological mind is referring to tries to control life and make it accord with the ideas it has of how things should be. So this is trying to control, this psychological part of your mind tries to control life and how it thinks life should fit into, or the experiencing of life should fit into its ideas and conditioning, you know. So it will offer up all sorts of suggestions, excuses, and distractions, but it derives life only from your attention, interest, and belief. Again, I read, it will offer up all sorts of suggestions, excuses, and distractions, this psychological version of your mind, the ego mind. But it derives life only from your attention. Without your attention, it cannot thrive or live or act. It derives life only from your attention, interest, and belief. So this psychological ego mind is 100% dependent on your attention, interest, and belief. That means you are not this ego mind, but I'm not going to go deeper into that. It is an aspect that you utilize to experience with, but I'm going to go ahead and read. It might even say that you're not good enough for self-realization. So it might even be telling you in your mind, You're not good enough for this self-inquiry or self-realization or this journey to find God in the unity between you and God. You're not good enough for that. This ego will be in your head and have you all up in your head with all these thoughts of your own self and your own self-esteem and your own capabilities and all these things. So I'm going to go on and read. And maybe it has a point. Let's see. And maybe it has a point. You, as the idea you have of yourself, aren't good enough. So you, as the idea you've accepted of yourself, the idea you were conditioned to believe growing up, the idea that you have of yourself, that you were conditioned by society around you, the system around you, everything, that idea of you is not good enough. You must, it goes on to read, you must transcend the personal aspect of mind if you want to be free. You must transcend this personal aspect, this ego mind state, if you want to be free. The mind state that's influenced by the conditionings and the belief systems and your limitations and all of these things that bind you in your mind, that have you believing you're your body and you're limited. You're limited to your condition and your environment, in your history and your lineage and your future possibilities that you were told you had or didn't have. All of that, all the above. You have to free yourself from that. And the only way to free yourself from that is to transcend it, to look past it, to not give it the attention and the interest and the belief that it's looking for the feed off of you from. To not subscribe to those things you were told to believe in as your self-limitation, as your self-origin. If someone tells you where you come from, but you have no way of confirming where you come from because they didn't teach you how to look within yourself to confirm it for yourself. They teach you don't look within yourself. Trust me, trust what I tell you, trust what we write. The word has to be more than just words, because the word came from something that was more than the word. So where is that origin? We look for it in the sky. How are we going to find it in the sky? How are you going to find what you're looking for when it's the source of what you're looking with? It's the source of what you're utilizing to look with. So why are you looking for it outside of its origin? Its origin is you. You got to go within to find it. It's not going to be outside of you. It's the source that you come from. It's the source that you come from. You have to go within to find that. But yeah, let's read on. So you, as the idea you have of yourself, aren't good enough. You must transcend the personal aspect of mind if you want to be free. Notice what the mind would suggest, and most important, notice to which I, the mind, is speaking or speaks. Who is the mind speaking to? Is it addressing the true self? For the woman who was struggling with prayer, what in her was capable of observing the lessening of the sense of unity and the increasing of the sense of duality when she prayed? What observes such fluctuations? What is its measure, and what yardstick can measure it? Looking in this way is the essence of self-inquiry. So I'm going to read it again, because it can get confusing. So I'm going to start from, you must transcend the personal aspect of mind if you want to be free. You have to transcend that personal aspect. And it goes on to try to give you some tips, some clues here. Here's a clue. It goes on to say, notice what the mind would suggest. And most important, notice to which I the mind speaks. You say I am, I say I am. And when we're expressing ourselves, we say I. I feel like this. I feel like that. I think this. I think that. Which I? I was offended when you said that. Which I was offended? Is it the I that notices offense and no offense? Or is it the I that's caught up in the personal feelings, in the emotions and the to and fro that emotions sway from? Is it the I that's caught up in that? Or is it one watching? Is it the one that even makes it possible to notice that? There's something there that already allows you to notice when you're happy and when you're sad and the difference between the two. Something's watching the difference between happy and sad. What part of you is that? Is that the eternal, immortal part? Or is that the mortal part that's caught up in feelings and emotions and the experiencing of life? There's something that life stems from that if it wasn't there, life would not exist because it would not be noticed by that. There's something that life is stemming from. So I don't want to keep talking more on it because I don't want to spoil it. But for some people, like when I first read some of these books, it threw me for a loop. So if I can help try to express it a little bit and break it down to people like you and I, whoever's looking, whoever, some of this stuff can seem like riddles when you read it. So sometimes you kind of like break it down, but I don't want to keep getting caught up and hold up. People be like, read more, read more. Why are you expressing so much? So let's go on and read. Notice what the mind would suggest. And most important, notice to which I the mind speaks. Who is the mind speaking to? Is it addressing the true self? For the woman who was struggling with prayer, what in her was capable of observing the lessening of the sense of unity and the increasing of the sense of duality when she prayed? She said she noticed the lessening. When she prayed, she noticed the lessening of a sense of unity and the increasing of the sense of duality. So what is it about her that enabled her to notice that? That is what's most often overlooked. It goes on to read, what observes such fluctuations? What is its measure? Referring to that which observes the fluctuations. What is its measure? And what yardstick can measure it? The observing, that which enables you to observe. What is its measure and what yardstick could it be measured with? Looking in this way is the essence of self-inquiry. So this is what self-inquiry is all about. It's what Mooji's describing. And many others, sages and gurus and messengers who have come, Christ, all the versions of Christ, Yeshua, Moses, Tutmosis, from Tutmosis to Moses, from the ancients to the most recent versions of the Bible and those names in there. All of them are referring to this. Buddha, Krishna, Shiva, all of them are referring to this presence that exists before and after the physical manifestation, whether it be a body, whether it be a planet, a star, or whatever that can be seen with the naked eye and touched and utilized to experience with the senses. Something exists before all of that, and something will exist after all of that. And self-inquiry is about noticing the oneness that you are already with this, with or without your body. This is what is referred to as the Christ or the Christ or the Christos, the presence of God. This is what is referred to when they were speaking of Ra, not Ra, the manifestation in a man form or humanoid form, but the Ra that enables that to happen, the Ra that enables the sun to shine. The Ray or Ra is what it's referred to. It was not a God, it was that which enables God to even be noticed. In the beginning, something was in the beginning to notice the beginning. What is that? What is the subtlety that notice existence in non-existence? Something's already there for existence in non-existence to occur. What is that? And are you separate from that? If so, how are you able to notice existence and non-existence? These are things that are so subtle that Christ and all other messengers would try to get just to relay across and put into words that can be consumed and understood, words that could be grasped, that will bring clarity to your experiencing. Whether you call it experiencing life or death, whichever one it is, it's still experienced. And something's watching, something enables you to watch the experience of life and death. It's what we keep overlooking. This is what's not taught. This is the Christ that enables the noticing of life and death. This is what God refers to when he says, I am that I am. I am Alpha and Omega, that which notices beginning and ending, because both beginning and ending comes from this presence that already exists and always exists. That's what it's about. Whether it's the Bible or the Bhagavad Gita or any Gita, whether it is the writings and teachings of Buddha or Krishna, whether it is the Medunetta, whether it's the Enuma Elish and the Emerald Tablet, it does not matter what ancient teaching it is. If it is talking about the origin of existence and non-existence and spirituality and all the above, it is referring to this. No matter what name you put on it, names and forms are attempts to describe this experience that everything comes out of and returns back to. That's what this is about. So I'm going to continue to read and breathe to calm down. I'm going to continue to read. It goes on to read, looking in this way is the essence of self-inquiry. I'm going to try not to interject my expressions as I read as much, because I can get carried away too. So the next paragraph reads, keep quiet and simply observe. Some self-guidance. Keep quiet and simply observe. So I'm going to keep quiet and simply read. You will find that it is you, but you not as an ego. The ego also has the capacity to witness, but it witnesses with self-interest. That's the difference. I read again. Looking in this way is the essence of self-inquiry. Keep quiet and simply observe. Observe. This is how you look. In that way, you keep quiet and simply observe. When you do that, you will find that it is you, but not you as an ego, not the ego version of you. The ego also has the capacity to witness, but it witnesses with self-interest. That's the difference. When this is seen, a deeper space opens up behind it, and you are in your pure witnessing. This is you, the I am consciousness that witnesses all phenomena, including ego and the increase in the sense of duality. You see that these are only movements and are monetary in duration or momentary. You see that these are only movements and are momentary in duration. I read that again. Looking in this way is the essence of self-inquiry. Keep quiet and simply observe. You will find that it is you. It is actually you, but not you as an ego. The ego also has the capacity to witness, but it witnesses with self-interest. When this is seen, a deeper space opens up behind it, and you are in your pure witnessing. This is you, the I am. When it refers to the Bible, when God says, I am that I am. When Christ, Yeshua, the Christ of Yeshua, speaks through Yeshua and says, I and the Father. The key common denominator here is I that am. I and the Father, the one who is known as I am that I am, are one. Just as you and the Father, known as I am that I am, are one. There is no separation. There is a believed and perceived separation. But if you were not one with the source of all things, you would not be aware enough. You would not have the awareness to even notice separation or non-separation. It is by that presence of God that is shared with you that enables you to say, I am. That is the only reason why you notice life and death, experiencing and non-experiencing. There is no separation. It could not be any separation. What we're experiencing as life is God. It is all part of God's presence, the grand collective consciousness that everything is happening within. This is God. This is the Christos, the Christ, the Christ. So Yeshua alone was not Christ. Yeshua was bringing the message that we are all this Christ. Everything is this Christ, this Christos. It is what enables us to be aware and experience. It is the power that animates this body. The presence inside this body is the Christ, the Christos. Christ was not Yeshua's last name. Christ was a description of that which operated that body that is known as Yeshua. This the Christos, the Christ, the Christ. Ancient Africans or ancient Alkebalans refer to it as the Christ, the Bantu, the Christ. Even the Dogon and some of the other ones. There are even some ancient said to be Native American or indigenous tribes all know. Some refer to it as Christ, some refer to it as Netta, some refer to it as Ne. Most of the ancient, there were even some, I forgot what was Navajo. They have if you listen to the Navajo when they are describing the Ne is short for Netta. And you know this by when you listen to the description of how they describe the Ne and you listen to the ancient description of what Netta is, it is the same. And they both come from, the word nature both come from these terms, because these terms were an attempt to describe the presence of God, God in action. God is not just one. God is one and many. God is what notices one and many. And the difference between the two. This is what all of this is referring to. The self-inquiry is the journey that Christ walked. The sadhana is the journey that Yeshua walked, and many others who were before him, and many who came after him. This is what it's all about. This is what the journey in the sadhana, in enlightenment, ascension, revelation. This is what all of this is about. This is what we're here for, to come to recognize our true sense of ourself, our natural state. With or without this body, something still is. To notice is and isn't, something has to already be. Otherwise, what would is and isn't be? What would is and isn't? How could it even exist without something to notice it? This is why it's often talked about the Jehovah's Witness. There was a conversation that was had between a couple of people that I know, and we got on a conversation about Jehovah's Witness. Which one came first? And when I'm talking about Jehovah, I'm talking about the name Jehovah, Yahuwah, or Yahweh, or Ahwah, however you want to pronounce it. Jehovah. How would Jehovah exist without a witness? Who would be told the name Jehovah? How would it be uttered if there was no witness? How would anyone even know the name Jehovah or any existence of it if there was no witness? The witness is the key. The name Jehovah is the journey, but the witness is the goal. Who is the witness? Who and what is the witness? Without the witness, there is nothing. It is the witness that enables something and nothing to occur. Jehovah is the name, but the origin is the witness. How would you even know your name if you were not the witness of your origin and your name? You are the witness. You are. That is why you and the Father are one. That is why you and your origin are one. Your body is from the land, but you are, the land and the body are from you. Your body is from the land, but the land and the body are from you. The real you, the one operating the body, not the body. So that's what this journey is about, this sadhana, this spiritual journey of self-recognition, self-inquiry, inquiring, what am I really? What is my true origin? Where do I come from? Is there even a where? Because all of this comes from the witness that allows it to be. It is the witness that allows it to be. Because without a witness, there is nothing. Not even nothing would be noticed without a witness. Something or nothing could not be noticed without a witness. Am I getting through? Okay, I'm going to hold back because I did say I wasn't going to go too deep into it. And I didn't even got through half the paragraph yet. So let me zip it a little bit and I'm going to go on and read. Okay? So you see that these, I'll start again so we can kind of get a full grasp of what this paragraph is, right? Because there's so much profound words and deepening of a sense of awareness in this paragraph alone. Okay? So let me start back, okay? I'm gonna start back from the beginning up here with what we just said. Let's start back and read it over, and you can kind of hopefully see what I see when I'm reading and what others people who actually get what the self-inquiry is referring to see when they read this stuff and they hear Mooji and other people like Papaji and Ramana and the Buddha, the Shiva, the Krishna, the Christ, all of these words. When you even go back and read the Bible, when you do the self-inquiry and you see from this point of origin, when you're looking from the very point of origin you go back and read the Bible and you realize what messages are really being relayed to you. You're not only seeing, from the place you're looking from. You are the peace that surpasses all understanding. That means you are what the mind cannot comprehend. And knowing that alone allows you to know that you're not your mind. Your mind is a tool for you to utilize, but you're not your mind. Your mind is your subordinate. It should not rule over you. Your ego is your subordinate. It should not rule over you. But it takes time to rearrange that. It takes the self-inquiry to do the sitting in the silence and just looking instead of interacting and subscribing to all the mind's suggestions, the ego mind constantly suggesting every thought that comes through your mind. You grabbing onto it. Just as Mooji and many others say when they describe it, look at it as clouds passing. And as the clouds pass, you don't have to grab each cloud. You don't have to get sucked into each cloud. You just watch it come and you watch it go. And you're still there. That feeling of anger comes and it goes, but you're still there. You watched it come and you watched it go. What were the last 7 thoughts you had in your mind? You don't even know. Because inadvertently, you weren't even paying attention to them coming and going, but they are coming and going. But you're the only thing, the only constant is you, the one they're coming and going within. You're the sky. They're the clouds. The feelings and emotions and thoughts are the clouds, but you are the sky. That's what this book is referring to in a way. Vaster than sky, greater than space is the one that witnesses the sky and the space, because both sky and space are happening within the witness. They're happening within the witness. The witness is you. Faster than sky, greater than space is you, the witness. The I that am, the one who is one with God. Just not aware of it because you were never taught to pay attention to that part of yourself. It's so subtle, whoever even has time to think about it. But without it, nothing could be. Okay, so let me go back. You, as the idea you have of yourself, aren't good enough. The idea you have of yourself is not good enough. You must transcend the personal aspect of mind if you want to be free. Notice what the mind would suggest, and most important, notice to which I the mind speaks. Who is the mind speaking to? Is it addressing the true self? For the woman who was struggling with prayer, what in her was capable of observing the lessening of the sense of unity and the increasing of the sense of duality when she prayed? What observes such fluctuations? What is its measure? And what yardstick can measure it? Looking in this way is the essence of self-inquiry. Keep quiet and simply observe. You will find that it is you, but not you as an ego. The ego also has the capacity to witness, but it witnesses with self-interest. When this is seen, a deeper space opens up behind it, and you are in your pure witnessing. This is you, the I am consciousness that witnesses all phenomena, including ego and the increase in the sense of duality. You see that these are only movements and are momentary in duration. You don't pay much heed. Or if you don't pay much heed, they won't even register as having happened. So I read that again. You see that these are only movements and are momentary in duration. If you don't pay much heed, they won't even register as having happened. Until and unless the mind says something is happening. Experientially, nothing is actually happening. So I read it again. Until and unless the mind says something is happening, experientially, nothing is actually happening. When we impart power to the psychological mind by giving it importance, it intimidates us and we suffer from its tyranny. I read again. When we impart power to the psychological mind by giving it importance, it intimidates us and we suffer from its tyranny. It's like a nation selling weapons to its enemies. However, even this is only a seeming. Even this is only something seeming to happen. It isn't true. You are the one who determines whether a particular phenomenon is powerful or not. I read again. It's like a nation selling weapons to its enemy. When we impart power to the psychological mind by giving it importance, it intimidates us and we suffer from its tyranny, much like a nation selling weapons to its enemies. However, even this is only a seeming. It only seems to be so. It isn't really true. You actually are the one who determines whether a particular phenomenon is powerful or not. The mind, in its psychological portrayal, cannot intimidate the pure self. It can only intimidate the idea we have of who we are. So when you're still caught up in that personal version of yourself, the ego mind, the psychological state, who believes its emotions, is still attached to its emotions, it's attached to its body, it's attached to its environment and the actions and everything. It believes it's in that matrix 3D, 5D virtual reality world, and you are actually that you're experiencing. You fail to actually recognize that you're able to witness the difference of experiencing and not. We lose sense of that part of ourselves because we're caught up in the experiencing of the environment. We forget that we're able to observe the experiencing and the environment. What part of ourself is that? Not only are we removed from the experience in the environment, without that part of ourselves, the experiencing and the environment could never even exist. That is the God part of ourselves that's enabling us to operate. And we call on it, but we're calling on it looking in the wrong place. It's much like when Mooji often talks about, and many other people talk about this saying that another sage named by the name of Rumi would say, I was knocking on the door. The door opens, and I realized I was knocking from the inside. I was looking in a place that already came from me for myself. I was looking for myself in a place that actually came from me already. You're looking from God. You're looking for God outside of yourself. But everything outside of yourself came from the inside of you already. You have to go back the way you came. Sankofa, go back the way you came. Go back within and do the self-inquiry and find out what is that enables you to even say, I am. Get to know that. Sit silent and quietly with yourself and get to know that part of you that is the space in between each thought occurring. That space in between each thought is presence. That is God. That is not separate than God from God. That is God. The space in between your thoughts and you, the one who's capable of noticing that, are actually one with God. It is the presence of God that allows you to even say, I am. How could you, now knowing this, even see any differently? Once you know this, you can't unknow it. Once you become aware of your origin being one with you, it is impossible to be lullabied back to sleep from recognizing that now. That's what revelation is about. Recognizing your true self. You are not all of this. All of this came from you. It wouldn't exist without your presence. And I'm not talking about the body. I'm talking about that which powers the body and enables the body to even exist. The witness, the actual witness that enables the word Jehovah to even exist. It is the witness. You are one with God. You are not separate. Consciousness is of the presence. It is the aroma of God's presence. Consciousness itself is the aroma of the presence of God. Awareness is the aroma of the presence of God. Love is the aroma of the presence of God. Presence is that which exists before senses, before sight, see, smell, touch, sound. Yeah, if you die or go to sleep, you can't use those senses, but you're still able to dream. Something's there dreaming, and something's present so that dreaming can happen within it. You can't get around that. There's no getting around that. That is the source of fact. It enables the idea and the concept of fact and no fact to even occur. This is God. This is Christ, Christos, Christ. It's far more than an object. It's far more than a subject or a topic. It is that which enables all of that to occur. It's greater. It's vaster. So I want to keep reading more about. I started over. I got lost there, but that was my expression. I just had to get that out. Sometimes I get so excited about it. But I'm also saying that for other people like myself, because I knew when I read some of this stuff, it was so hard to grasp because my mind was still in that ego state that it talks about. It was still in that psychological state that was filled with conditioning and teachings and beliefs and all these things. And I didn't realize that I had psychological boundaries that didn't enable me to see in this way, that I was holding on to because of tradition and holding on to because I believed that I was limited. And then I know I can't let this stuff go. And I'm going, this is ungodly. This is Satan. No, it's not. It's actually what Christ is talking about. And Christ is the presence of God in no matter who or what it is. Whether the name is Moses, whether the name is Yeshua, whether the name is Paul or Peter or Simon or whoever, Michael, Mika of El, doesn't matter. The Christ is what's important. The I that am is what's important. Every creature and every living thing and everything within life says, I am. That should be a clue in itself. When you go to speak and express yourself, you say, I. That is the most important clue. I that am. I think she went to the bathroom. Oh, that is the most important clue. I, who am, meaning I, who exist. Even a gnat says, I am. If you were to speak that gnat's language, that gnat would express itself first by saying, I. And it would express, I am this, I am that, I am happy, I am sad, I am flying, I am not flying, I am. And then after the I am comes the description of the actions being taken. But first there's I, who am. And I, who am doing this or not doing that. That is how we communicate. Commune. I, Kate. Or communing from the I location, I'd like to say. Because what location are you? What location is the I? What location is I? When you say I, where are you? You're where you are. Whether you're here or you're on another planet in 17 galaxies away, you're still saying I am. I think she went to the back too. You're still saying I. You're still saying I, who am. You refer, when you express yourself, you say I, who am. In the Bible or any other book that speaks about God, no matter what language it's in, when the expression is being relayed or communicated, it comes from the I, who am location. It's coming from the I, who am, is expressing itself. No matter what body it's in, no matter what language or culture it has. It's the I, who am, expressing itself. Whether it's a human or an animal or an alien, the I, who am, is expressing itself in that form, in that manifestation, in that form of expression. This is the Christ. It's far more than what the book can relate to you. This is something you are, and you have to come. You cannot just get it from the book. You have to do it. You have to sit quietly with yourself and watch your thoughts, enabled to see the space in between the thoughts. That which enables the thoughts to occur. The watcher, the witness. And then notice that you are one with this witness. When you sit quietly with yourself long enough, you know this as your experience. No one can come and just pull the wool over your eyes, because this is your experience. This is why Christ said, I and the Father are one, and did not worry about anybody saying it was blasphemous. Only someone from a psychological ego mind state can see that as blasphemous, because they can't see from that I location. They're not aware of their true origin. They're still thinking they're their body and their mind and their thoughts. They're not seeing what enables the body and the mind and the thoughts to occur is the same I that they already are. All of it is God. All of it is I am. And then the activity happens after I am. I am happy. I am sad. I am peaceful. I am chaotic. You see? So all of this happens after I am. We are all part of this I am. So I'm going to read again, and I'm going to try not to stop again because I know this keeps, but I'm just keeping in mind people like myself, because I had to sit through this and keep trying and keep trying and keep, something kept pulling me away because it seemed to be too hard to understand. But when I was looking at people like Mooji and Papa G and Ramada, and I saw that people that stayed with it, I know there's something there. So I just wouldn't give up. I just kept going back to it because I know there's something there. I can feel it. There was something there. This was not speaking against any religion. This was helping you to see past the veil of all religion. Because religion is just a stepping stone. It is just one phase of the growth. Religion is just one phase of the growth. It's only one phase. There are many other phases. And that happens in the blooming of the flower, the lotus flower. When it blooms, you recognize the many different layers of your conscious awareness, which is what God is expressing to you and through you as from the very beginning. Self-awareness. We are so aware of the world and the environment around us, but we are not paying attention to our own self-awareness, that which enables us to be aware of our environment. How much attention do we pay to that presence? That is God. That is not just you by yourself. How could you be by yourself when you came from God? If you believe you came from God, then how could you believe you are still separate? You can't be separate from what you come from. It's impossible. You are what you come from. You're just not aware of it because so many other things occupy your sense of self-awareness. So many things stimulate and distract your attention from your own self, your own natural state, without the bells and whistles, just the raw version of you. The unclothed one that was in the garden before you were ever told you were naked, before the concept of nakedness was even influenced to you. That nakedness is this I that am. Who told you you were naked so that you could think you were separate from me? Who told you to lie that you were separate from me? Who told you you were naked? Where did that concept even come from? You are not your body. You are the operator of that body. That operator is the same I that am that I am. So who told you this concept of nakedness? Who put that in your mindset? Because the attention was not on the body. The attention was on the operator of the body, that which animated the body and gave it life. So why are you thinking on something lesser than the source that operates it? That's what the story of Adam and Eve is really trying to relay. The body, the garden, the serpent, all of it came from the I that am. And Adam and Eve were different expressions and aspects of the I that am, because without the I that am, there would be no Adam or Eve. And they would not be aware of themselves without the consciousness of God that was breathed into them, so to speak. Cough up shoe. All of these names, nothing could happen. None of them could be without consciousness. And people think consciousness scientifically. No, because without their original consciousness, the science, the term and concept science wouldn't even exist. It wouldn't be a thought to be thought up. There wouldn't even be a mind to think it up. Consciousness comes first, then the mind comes after. Then the psychological, egotistical, environment influenced mind comes afterwards. The type of mind that's influenced by information and environments, senses. That is the psychological, the psyche. But the practical mind, the one that enables you to operate the body, the one that is the operator of the body, which is otherwise known as awareness or consciousness, that always is. That can exist without the psychological. It can exist without the ego. It can exist without environments. It can exist without up, down, left, right, in, out, over, under. It can exist without all of that because it's what notices all of that. When you get this, you will then recognize that you're the source of both freedom and bondage. When you get this for yourself, you will notice you are the source of both freedom and bondage. So if you are, then how can you be bound by freedom or bondage? How can freedom or bondage be your total experience if you're the source of both of them? The greatest part of you is the one that notices both freedom and bondage and the difference between the two. That is the greater version of you. That is the God consciousness. That is the God presence, the God principle. Without it, the you think you are could not exist. The physical world could not exist without it. Experiencing itself could not exist without it. If you get this, then you can say from your experience, not from your hypothesis, but from your actual living, breathing experience, you can say to death, where is your sting? This is what it was speaking of in the Bible. Where is your sting? When I am the one who notices the difference between life and death. It is not my body. It is I who operate my body. That it still lives and notices the difference between life and death. I still am. I always am. And life and death happen within me. I don't come from life or death. Life or death comes from the I that I already am. This is the same I am that existence and non-existence both come from. That is why I can firmly, without doubt, say that I and the Father are one, because we are all I who am. Everything is I who am. Even the rocks in the ground and the earth that you place your feet on is I who am. There is no boundary or limitation for I who am. So you're not looking for a physical humanoid form body to come out the sky as a giant hand and touch the earth. Your perception and projections are not accurate because there is no concept that can express the entirety of its origin. I say it again, there is no thought or concept that can express the entirety of what it comes from. That is why there is no real name or utterance of God, because nothing, no word or utterance can express its origin in its entirety. It's impossible. Even the word impossible, I am possible, is so subtle and right up under our face. I am possible. Even in impossibility, I am possible. Because if I am not possible, impossibility could not exist. What is the difference between possible, impossible? But both have the common denominator of I am. Without I am, possibility and impossibility could not be. What's going to be there to recognize its existence? What's going to be there to recognize it if there's no I am? Then where could happening and not happening occur? Who would even know it? How would it even be spoken of if there's nothing there to even notice it? There's always something there to notice. So, and I keep doing it. And I know this is a live. I'm like 1 hour in. So let me finish this. I'm 1 hour in and I'm still on this paragraph because this paragraph is so profound. And I'm doing this for those who are like me, who, if you ever try to pick this book up or any book that talks on Advaita or self-inquiry, and it seems so confusing and it seems to throw you off, I'm doing this to try to help explain and relay some of this and put it in a way that maybe you can grasp for any of those of you who are like me, who kind of really want to know, but you can kind of follow. I'm trying to break it down in a way where you can relate to it. But the book in itself breaks it down, you know. But even when I read the book, coming from my background and my culture, it seemed like a different language to me at first. I had to read it again and again until I finally got it. And I had to read it with a different, each time I reread it, my mindset was different. My noticing of certain things became more and more deeper. I began to notice things that are so subtle that we overlook every day. And with that happening, I would go back and read this book and it would become more and more clear to me. Okay. And that's what he's talking about. That's what Mooji's referring to. Okay. So let me go on. So notice that the mind will suggest, and most important, notice what the mind will suggest, and most important, notice to which I the mind speaks. Who is the mind speaking to? Is it addressing the true self? For the woman who was struggling with prayer, what in her was capable of observing the lessening of the sense of unity and observe the increasing of the sense of duality when she prayed? What observes such fluctuations? What is its measure, and what yardstick can measure it? Looking in this way is the essence of self-inquiry. Keep quiet and simply observe. You will find that it is you. You will find that it is you, but not you as an ego. The ego also has the capacity to witness, but it witnesses with self-interest. When this is seen, A deeper space opens up behind it, and you are in your pure witnessing. With this, or this is you, the I am consciousness that witnesses all phenomena, including ego and the increase in the sense of duality. You see that these are only movements and are momentary in duration. If you don't pay much heed, they don't even register as having happened. Until and unless the mind says something is happening, experientially, nothing is actually happening. When we impart power to the psychological mind by giving it importance, it intimidates us and we suffer from its tyranny. It's like a nation selling wealth to its enemies. However, even this is only a seeming, meaning even this only seems to happen. It isn't true. You are the one who determines whether a particular phenomenon is powerful or not. The mind, in its psychological portrayal, cannot intimidate the pure self. It can only intimidate the idea we have of who we are. So, if you feel drawn to self inquiry, leave aside your pet concepts and just inquire. I read again. So, if you feel drawn to self inquiry, then leave aside your pet concepts and just inquire, meaning the concepts you so dearly hold on to. Leave them aside and just look within. Just look without concepts. Try to actively leave aside your concepts and just simply innocently look. Just look. If you feel drawn to prayer, then pray. But don't buy into the idea that the two approaches are mutually exclusive. Meaning, don't buy into the idea that whether it is having concepts or praying are mutually exclusive. Like you only need to conceive, have concepts and beliefs, or you only need to pray, or this or that. You only have to be limited. Like you limit, oh, it's only by this way. No, because all ways come from the origin that enables ways itself to happen. All concepts come from the origin that enables concepts to even be conceived. Nothing is separate from God. God is the enabler of existence and non-existence. God is not just a person, place, or thing or object. God is that which notices person, place, thing, and object, in the ability to do so. That is what God truly is, the Christ. So again, it reads, if you feel drawn to prayer, then pray. But don't buy into the idea that the two approaches are mutually exclusive. Don't hold tightly onto any idea or utterance. Don't be a one-trick pony. Simply follow the guidance and experience the outcome. You don't have to say, okay, I believe in this or that method. This is not trying to get you converted to anything. This is getting you to look for yourself in a place that you were never taught to look in. That's simply what self-inquiry is. The purpose is not to believe, but to go to the space beyond belief into perfect understanding. However, if belief helps break down the superstructure of egoic identity, then it is serving its purpose. Again, I say, however, if belief helps break down the superstructure of egoic identity, then it is serving its purpose. So if your belief in your religion or whatever your practice is helping you break down the superstructure of your ego's identity, meaning I'm only this, I'm only that, I'm only my body, I'm only my, if it's helping to break that down so you can see past those things, then by all means, it's serving its purpose. There's nothing against any religion or anything. As I said before, this helps you see the profoundness and see religion and beyond it in such clarity. When you go back and read any Bible or any book or any belief or structure, you go back and look from the original origin that everything comes from. When you're looking from that place, there is no room for confusion or ignorance, because you're looking from the origin. So nothing is going to bother you to that extent anymore. You see? But I don't want to go deeper. Let me catch myself and get back to reading. This wise, or the wise keep their minds open until understanding comes to them naturally and unforced. I read again. The wise keep their minds open until understanding comes to them naturally and unforced. The heart's way to truth. This is the next one. And I'm trying not to, this is the next paragraph. I'm going to try not to go in depth like I keep on explaining stuff and getting off, not really off track, but expressing my version of adding to this. The heart's way of truth. Any spiritual practice or sadhana, which is sadhana is known as spiritual practice, okay, should emerge from an authentic inner movement. Again, any spiritual practice or sadhana should emerge from an authentic inner movement. It shouldn't come from a mental projection or a desire to get somewhere or to derive some particular personal benefit from it. Sadhana should not be done mechanically. Some spiritual practices are time-consuming and complex, while others, like self-inquiry, are direct and immediate, each to suit the temperament of the seeker. So there's nothing wrong with either one. Whatever temperament you are, if all of that is, consuming and time-consuming and complex, if that helps you, then so be it. Like I said earlier in the other paragraph, But if it's more direct and simpler and more upfront in your face, direct, then hey, what would it hurt to do the self-inquiry, and look for yourself from the source of within yourself? Look for that. Why not pay attention to yourself long enough to see what's really there, as opposed to what you were told is there? Look for yourself and confirm what's really there. Some spiritual practices are time-consuming and complex, while others, like self-inquiry, are direct and immediate, each to suit the temperament of the seeker. Some seekers enjoy the journey of spirituality, but may secretly be afraid of reaching the destination. That's a real thing. While others are tired of practicing and just want to discover truth. They just want the truth. The latter attitude, that of immediacy, is alive. I like it when people have the sense of urgency, because that is when the miracle of existence can begin to reveal itself. I am speaking directly here because I don't want to put anything between the seeker and what is sought. Wherever there is the space to point to truth directly, I will make that opportunity. I will take that opportunity. Wherever there is the space to point to truth directly, I will take that opportunity. What we imagine to be obstructing our journey to truth is not ultimately real. I read again. What we imagine to be obstructing our journey to truth is not ultimately real because we are the truth. I know that it is not easy to grasp this, but as we have a strong belief in our identity as a person seeking truth, again, I read, I know that it's not, okay, I'm going to go from the earlier than that. Truth is not ultimately real because we are truth. Oh, let me go back further because that's confusing too. So let's go back to the beginning of the paragraph because I don't want to get confused. It got me tripped up when I read it too. I am speaking directly here because I don't want to put anything between the seeker and what is sought. Wherever there is the space to point to truth directly, I will take that opportunity. What we imagine to be obstructing our journey to truth is not ultimately real because we are the truth. I know that is not easy to grasp. I know that it is not easy to grasp this as we have a strong belief in our identity as a person seeking truth. Okay, that's why I got tripped up. I read it wrong. Okay. I know that it is not easy to grasp this, meaning that we are the truth. It's not easy to grasp as we have a strong belief in our identity as a person seeking truth. So it's much like the phrase that the Guru Rumi was saying. I was knocking on this door. Knocking. When the door finally opened, I realized it was me that opened the door. I was already in. Because I was so busy searching for truth, not recognizing the truth is actually what I am. Again, there's that word I am, or that expression I am, because it's much more than a word. I who am. That is not just truth, that's the origin of truth. I am. I'm searching for truth, not recognizing it's like truth searching for itself. That's what is being said here. Okay, so I'll go on to read. But there is nowhere you need to go to find truth. I know that it is not easy to grasp this as we have a strong belief in our identity as a person seeking truth. But there is really nowhere you need to go to find truth. Where are your efforts going? Where are your efforts going, really? What are they trying to accomplish? The truth is the very same as the one who perceives the effort being made. I hope you get that, because I've read it over and over and it slipped my mind until I finally did the self-inquiry myself and confirmed it. And then when I went back and read this sentence right here that I kept getting tripped up on, it became clear to me. I'm going to read it again. I know that it is not easy. Truth is not, okay, I'm going to go back and read this again. We are in what we imagine to be obstructing our journey to truth is not ultimately real because we are the truth. I know that it is not easy to grasp this as we have a strong belief in our identity as a person seeking truth. But there is nowhere you need to go to find truth, because you are the truth. That which enables you to even observe the idea that you need to seek truth is actually the truth itself. Where are your efforts going? What are they trying to accomplish? The truth is the very same as the one who perceives the effort to seek truth even being made. There's a part of you that perceives your effort to even seek truth. That part of you is truth itself. I know it's hard to grasp, but just slow it down. Even if you have to read it over and over as many times as I had. But if you don't try to self-inquiry yourself, to confirm for yourself, to look for yourself, and study to show yourself approved, meaning confirm for yourself. If you don't do that, you can read this as many times as ever, and you won't really grasp it until you do it for yourself to confirm. Okay? Then when you go back and read this, you'll be like, I know exactly what this is referring to. It's clear to me now. Okay? When you grasp, it goes on to read, when you grasp what I'm saying, this is Mooji speaking here, he's talking about, when you grasp what I'm saying, you will see that all efforts are being expended just to try to find the one who is watching the efforts itself. I read it again. When you grasp what I'm saying, you will see that all efforts are being expended just to try to find the one who is watching the efforts. All efforts that you make are watched in you. Awareness itself absorbs all exercises and practices. That is so profound. I got to read it again. When you grasp what I'm saying, you will see that all efforts are being expended just to try to find the one who is watching the efforts being made. All efforts that you make are watched in you. Awareness itself absorbs all exercises and practices. Let that sink in. Okay? I'm going on to read. While some practices may benefit the physical and energetic body, it is mainly the mind that likes performing exercises. It wants to be the one working on vasanas, moving through the chakras, doing breathing exercises, applying blue lights and crystals to cleanse the aura. It likes to be engaged and in charge, and such efforts make you feel you are doing something to attain self-realization. But I tell you now, abandon the idea that you can practice your way into enlightenment. I repeat, but I tell you now, abandon the idea that you can practice your way into enlightenment. This idea is a trap and reinforces your sense of being a person. The idea that you can practice your way into enlightenment. It's a trap. And it reinforces your persona, your personal egoistic psychological state. And it's not like an evil thing, so to speak, but it's just something to distract you from your true sense of beingness itself. That's all. It's a distraction. Not necessarily a bad thing. It's just a distraction to get your mind from your true natural origin state. Okay. Mostly, we are in a partnership with the mind instead of hiring it as our employee. So, yeah, talks about the current interaction between the mind. Mostly, we are in a partnership with the mind instead of hiring it as our employee. And this allows it to veto anything we propose. I read again. Mostly, we are in a partnership with the mind instead of hiring it as our employee. And this allows it, the mind, to veto anything we propose. Anything we propose. Because we view our mind as a partnership instead of our subordinate or employee, we give the mind the power, the ego mind the power to veto anything that we want to do, see naturally, that we, any purpose that we naturally have. It distracts us from it. I point you directly to awareness, but the mind wants you to avoid awareness and to keep you asleep. Why? Because the mind will not give up its power. Your adversary is not some two-horned, red-skinned devil running around on hooves with a pitchfork. Your adversary is your ego mind molesting you at every thought, trying to get you to subscribe to every thought you have so you can be thrown to and fro from one emotion to the next, from one thought to the next, and you in a state of chaos. And your body begins to react to it. And next you know, you're in imbalance in SFET, what our ancestors call SFET, meaning disharmony, imbalance, which is otherwise known as dis-ease, the opposite of ease. So with that being said, let's read on. Mostly we are in partnership with the mind instead of hiring it as our employee. And this allows it to veto anything we propose. I point you directly to awareness, but the mind wants you to avoid awareness and to keep you asleep. Why? Because the mind will not give up its power. It seemingly lays claim to all it sees, that which is visible to the eye as well as what lies in the field of emotions and memories. But ultimately, the mind has to admit, I can devour anything phenomenal, but I cannot eat awareness, for it devours me. That is so profound. I got to read that whole paragraph again and hoping you get it, because when I was reading it, it went over my head. So for those of you who are like me, that's why I keep going over this stuff and reading stuff. Okay. Those of you who are not like me and get it, please be patient. I apologize. Okay, I'll go back from here. While some practices may benefit the physical and energetic body, it is mainly the mind that likes performing exercises. It wants to be the one working on vasanas, moving through the chakras, doing breathing exercises, applying blue lights and crystals to cleanse the aura. It likes to be engaged and in charge, and such efforts make you feel you are doing something to attain self-realization. But I tell you now, abandon the idea that you can practice your way into enlightenment. This idea is a trap and reinforces your sense of being a person. It reinforces your sense of being a person, not the self that enables the idea of a person to exist. It reinforces your sense of being a person. So this goes on to say, mostly we are in a partnership with the mind instead of hiring it as our employee. And this allows it, meaning the mind, to veto anything we propose. I point you directly to awareness, but the mind wants you to avoid awareness and to keep you asleep. Why? because the mind will not give up its power. It seemingly lays claim to all it sees, that which is visible to the eye, as well as what lies in the field of emotions and memories. But ultimately, the mind has to admit, I can devour anything phenomenal. Phenomenal means, you know, like it was saying, anything that lies in the field of emotions and memories, thoughts, concepts. I can devour that, but I cannot eat awareness. For awareness itself devours even me. Let that sink in. Even the mind says, I can devour anything phenomenal, but I cannot eat awareness. I cannot devour awareness. For awareness itself actually devours me. I even come from awareness. I being the personal persona, the mind, the character I'm playing in life, the one with the name and the concepts and the beliefs and the conditioning and all the skill sets and accolades and things I accumulated along the way. That psychological egoic mind state actually is devoured even by the awareness that allows it to even exist. That's what this is really saying. Okay? So when you read it, you go back and read it, and you see how you get the clarity on it. Let's go to the next paragraph, and then I'm going to be done. I'm going to do this page, and then done. Or maybe I'll do this. I'll do these next two pages because there's a poem there. Okay. So I'm going to try to read without stopping so much, but I know some things, if I feel like it would catch me up, or the old version of me, then I will read it, because I'm reading this for people who like me were looking. And when you read this stuff, you're not going to get it right away all the time. Not everybody's going to get this stuff right away. You have to go back and read it. You may have to go and do the self-inquiry yourself. So when you read this stuff, it doesn't sound like riddles to you, because it's not just the Bible that sounds that way. This stuff comes from a place of looking that the ego mind just can't fathom. It is things that are so subtle, that are right in front of you and I's face, that are so subtle that our natural state can grasp it, but our personal state cannot grasp it. So when you look at this stuff from a personal standpoint, you're not going to get it. You have to be able to look within and go past your personal standpoints, your personal state of conceiving and perceiving and experiencing life. You got to go past that personal state in order to be able to pick up on this stuff in its clarity, to get clarity from it. Because this is not coming from a personal place. This is coming from the source. This is coming from the same place that God is speaking and looking from. That's why these words seem so confusing and so profound. But when you get it, like it says in here, when you get it, but the only way you can get it is to look for yourself. You can't get it from me just reading this and telling it to you. You literally, even after hearing me read this to you, you literally have to go and look for yourself and confirm for yourself. You don't even have to go. You can just, as I'm reading it to you, you can look as I'm reading it and confirm for yourself. It doesn't have to be later. It can be now, because there only ever is now. Now is all there is. When you go to tomorrow, it becomes now. If you go back to yesterday, it becomes now. Now is all there ever is. Because you are the truth. Wherever you are, there is now. Whenever you are, there is now. Because you and God are one. So back to what I'm reading. This one is The Effortless Way. And it goes on to read, perhaps you performed many practices and have derived some benefit from them. But now you have been drawn to this direct and simple way of self-inquiry. I'm not going to give you 17 steps to anything, not even a single step. Lay down your arms. Lay down your techniques for a moment, just a moment, and take some rest. Feel your heart again. Lay down all these burdens and concepts and everything. Just a moment, just for this moment, and just rest and just be natural in your natural, peaceful state. Lay down all the other concepts that you're trying so hard to hold on to, all the belief system. Lay that down. This is not about that. This is about what enables you to even experience those things. And in order for you to really grasp it, you must, in order for you to get anything else, you must lay down what you have your hands full with first. Your hands are already full. In order to receive, you must let go of what you have in your hands. You must be willing to lay it down. That's not saying it's going to be gone forever. After this, you can pick it back up. But for now, just lay it down so that you can receive this gift, so you can receive this insight. You must lay down the concepts you're holding on to already to receive this new concept, or this not even new concept, this concept that always was and always is, that we often overlook. It is often overlooked. So in order to receive this, lay down what you have in your hands already. Meaning in your hands as in the concepts and conditioning and things and beliefs and thoughts that you have in your mind. Just let that go for a moment. When all of this is done, you can pick it back up and go about your way. So just give yourself a chance to feel your heart again. Just be at peace. Holding no concept. Just be at peace. You have tried it the hard way. Now try it the heart's way. The effortless way for a while. So this is what Mooji's saying to you. You've already tried it the hard way. Now try it your heart's way. This is your heart. When you lay down all your concepts and everything, you're just at from your pure heart, from your natural state. Now let your heart lead. And that's not your heart that gets you in relationships and your emotions. That's still your psychological state part, whether you know it or not. Your heart is your most natural, comfortable state without concepts and beliefs. You're just natural state, your beingness itself, your active act of being. Not trying to be anything, just being. Allow that to be more dominant in you. Allow your awareness to go to that. Okay? So now you've tried it the hard way. You've already tried it the hard way. Now try it your heart's way, or the heart's way, the effortless way for a while. I have not come to burden you, but rather to free you from the notion that you need to do anything to simply be yourself. You don't need to do anything in particular to be your true self. You just simply be. The divine is not even a fraction of an inch away from you. It can never be apart from you. It is the core of your very being. That is why he's trying to get you to drop all your concepts and beliefs and just notice. In order for you to notice your true sense of yourself, you must drop all these concepts and beliefs for a moment so you can see the space in between your thoughts. Feel the space in between your thoughts. Notice that space of existence between your thoughts and your emotions. Notice that. That is your true being. That is your true self, your most natural state. That's the core of your very being, and it can never be apart from you. It is also known as God. It is also known as the presence of God. It is also known as the Christ, or the Christ, or the Christos. What would bring my heart the greatest joy would be if every single heart were to open and discover the self, the true self. I don't see any real impediment to this awakening except for fear, stubbornness, or strong identification with one's own sense of autonomous personhood. I'll read that again. What would bring my heart the greatest joy would be if every single heart were to open and discover the self. I don't see any impediment to this awakening except for fear, stubbornness, or strong identification with one's own sense of autonomous personhood. Autonomous personhood is these concepts, belief systems, uh, everything that he was talking about, you letting go of emotional states and all of this. It's on autopilot in your mind and in your body. It's actively on autopilot. And if you don't take time to just slow things down and quiet and peace yourself, it'll just run out of control with you. You'll be the subordinate of your ego mind instead of your ego mind being your subordinate. You will be what they call possessed. And what does the majority of this world believe? Possession is 9/10 of the law. So instead of you being 10/10 of yourself, you're 1/10 of yourself because your ego is possessing 9/10 of you in your experiencing. It's controlling you at every thought, every emotion, is running you from here to there, to and fro, throwing you around like a rag doll. And it's your subordinate, but you forgot that somehow. Your ego mind is your subordinate. You're not your ego mind subordinate. You're not the subordinate of your thoughts. Your thoughts are your subordinate. Your thoughts come from you. You control your thoughts. Your thoughts should not be controlling you. It should not be controlling your experience. Your emotions should not be controlling your experience. Without you, there would be no emotion. There would be no thought. How is it controlling you? You see, that's what the self-inquiry is about. Slowing things down and taking time to get to know the true self that you are so that you can rearrange the dysfunction, the imbalance, to correct the aspect, to ease the dis-ease, to balance the imbalanced. Your ego is running you around like a bully, and you're not even aware that you're supposed to be in charge of your ego. You don't even know how, pretty much, you know? So with that being said, when you take this time to just breathe and be at peace with yourself, you're enabling yourself to be aware of this space known as the self, which it says here, what would bring Mooji's heart, was he saying, what would bring my heart the greatest joy would be if every single heart were to open and discover the self. That is this space we're talking about. I don't see any real impediment to awakening except for fear, stubbornness, or strong identification with one's own sense of autonomous personhood. That autonomous personhood is talking about the ego mind. Okay. These apparent obstacles are nothing new, so we must be familiar with their weak points by now. They can all be removed because none of them is greater than the self. I repeat, they can all be removed because none of them is greater than the self. They may form themselves again from time to time, but you will make good use of the challenges as mirrors with which to look at your own self. Again, they may form themselves again from time to time, but you will make good use of challenges as mirrors with which to look at your own self. So you will use these challenges that the ego will bring to you. And sometimes, you're not going to be always peaceful. You're going to have blowups. Even when you're on your spiritual journey, I even believe even monks and gurus have moments where they explode and they blow up and they have emotional expressions from time to time. Nobody is exempt from that. That is part of the experiencing called life. But it does not control you. It does not define you. It does not sway you. You can utilize it as, instead of what before, where you seem like you uncontrollably have these outbursts. Now you're using these outbursts to remind you of the difference between the personal version of you, the persona, and the natural state of you, that which watches that happening. That which watched you have an outburst. There's a part of you that watches yourself have an outburst. That is the self. The other part of you who believes that you are in this outburst and you're in this moment, that is the persona of you. That's the personal character that the self is playing. It's like a video game. You're playing a character in a video game. And sometimes you forget you're the one playing the character. You're not the character. So the self is actually the one playing the character. The ego, psychological ego state, is known as the persona or the character. Okay? So as the self, you can look at the screen of your life, or you can pay attention to your natural state and view the vastness that screen is happening within. That whole video game is happening within. There's a whole reality beyond that video game that you call your life. There's a whole experience beyond the persona that you're living, with the name and the likeness and the form and the body and all the experiences, emotions and all that. There's something greater that you already are that enables that experiencing you call your life to happen. And it's not separate from you. It already is you. You are this already. You were never separate from it. You just have to be aware of it because it's often overlooked. But without it, your name, your form, your person, your experiences, your life, none of it would have even happened. It would have never happened without this that you truly are. So that's what this is referring to. So let's go. Let's keep reading. These apparent obstacles are nothing new, so we must be familiar with their weak points by now. They can all be removed because none of them is greater than the self. They may form themselves again from time to time, but you will make good use of the challenges as mirrors with which to look at your own self, to remind you that you're the self, not the challenges, not the experiences. You're the self, the one watching it all happen. The simplicity of being, the naturalness of the self, requires no technique, strategy, plan, knowledge, or learning. None of the above are required. Don't keep cultivating. Just keep quiet for a bit. I have found that living in this immediacy is to live on top of the world. But humanity has forgotten to trust that the wind of grace will fill its sails and has instead put so much energy into its own vain efforts. I say again, don't keep cultivating, just keep quiet for a bit. I have found that living in this immediacy is to live on top of the world. But humanity has forgotten to trust that the wind of grace will fill the sails and has instead put so much energy into its own vain efforts. Don't worry about things too much. When you stop worrying, Your eyes become bright again. Your heart open, clean, and pure. And you feel that your whole life is wind assisted, meaning you feel like your whole life is carrying you, is the wind carrying you. Grace accompanies you as you move. It carries you along the way. Indeed, grace is already there before you reach the place it has carried you to. The divine is right here, right now, yet we seem to miss it. Although it should be obvious, habit seems to veil the real. I read again. The divine is right here, right now, yet we seem to miss it. Although it should be obvious, habit seems to veil the real or its reality or the reality that it is. Habit seems to veil it, seems to cover it. Follow this simple advice and come out of this jungle of the mind. Let's discover this truth together. I am only reminding you of the simplicity of your being that can never be polluted, never go wrong, and never be destroyed. I repeat, let's discover this truth together. I am only reminding you of the simplicity of your being that can never be polluted, never go wrong, and never be destroyed. It can never belong to the devil, and it can never die. You cannot damage it. You cannot improve it because it is always and already perfect. Open up to its presence. It is not different from you. Grace brought you here, and grace is serving you awakening. What I point to is Brahman, known as Brahman, also known as Brahman, the supreme reality. So some can call it the Christ or the Christos. It is also another term in another culture, also known as Brahman. Brahman. Brahman is like the sun. See, as we said, in Medunetta or ancient Kemet or what we call Egyptian, when they talk about the god Ra, the Egyptians or the ancient Kemetians, or they were not talking about a person who was known as Ra only. They were talking about this, the self-inquiry, which is also the power behind the sun that allows the sun to shine in that which notices the sun shines. The witness. That's what this is all about. Okay? Brahman is like the sun, which just by being enables all life forms to come into their diverse manifestations, each one responding to the same sunlight. Everything bursts into bloom, and yet the sun is not concerned with flowers or water, with clouds or rain. But because of the sun, all life forms come into dynamic manifestation. So it's exactly what we're saying. It's describing how even our ancestors were talking about this. Not just Ra as the archetype or the visual description or expression, but the actual Ra or Ray, which is the power behind the sun that enables the sun to shine, that notices the sun shines. It's not concerned with all the life that comes from it, so much as noticing that it is already existing, and all that comes from it is the product or the aroma of its presence. It's like you are here, but your perfume, your aroma is what causes life. You're just present. You just be. You're doing what you do. You be as you be. But because you be, everything else can also be. That is God. That is source of origin, origin of source. That is Allah. That is Buddha. That is Shiva. That is Krishna. That all of, no matter what name or likeness or form there is, it exists because that which enables it to be noticed already exists. So this is Brahman, the Christ, the Christos, the Christ. And then there's different levels of this awareness known as Brahman or Christ or Christos or Christ. There's different levels of expression, just as there are many different variations of us as a people or a species or an insect or a life form or a rock or a flower or a tree or a blade of grass or the wind or the electricity or light or dark. Any of these aspects, experiences, all come from what is known as God or Brahman or Christ or Christos or source of origin, origin of source, or multiplicity of singularity and singularity of multiplicity in a scientific form. It does not matter what language or culture, because without this, there would be no language or culture. This is far more important than any language, culture, or religion that all of this comes from in the first place. It all comes from it. So how could any religion, language, or culture be more important than it? Without it, none of it would exist to even be noticed. The witness is more important than the name, because without the witness, what would the name even be? It is the consciousness that allows for witnessing to happen. This consciousness has many names, many forms, many expressions, many cultures, all point to it. That is why it's important to look at what the words are pointing to. The destination, not the journey. The destination is most important, not the journey. The journey can be great, like Mooji and many other sages and gurus and messengers may say. The journey can be great, but what's most important is the destination, the goal. That's why this is important. That's why self-inquiry is so important. It puts you back focused on the goal. The journey is beautiful, but don't forget the goal. So let's go on and read. Let's discover truth together. Oh, let me see. Let me start here. What I point to is Brahman, the supreme reality. Brahman is like the sun, which just by being enables all life forms to come into their diverse manifestations, each one responding to the same sunlight. Everything bursts into bloom, and yet the sun is not concerned with flowers or water, with clouds or rain. But because of the sun, all life forms come into dynamic manifestation. In the same way, once we realize our wholeness, we are no longer individual caretakers of any particular aspect of existence. So powerful and great is the manifestation, the presence, and life force of those whose role it is to be the servants of that totality. So I say it again, I read this again. In the same way, once we realize our wholeness, let me read from here. Everything bursts in. What I point to is Brahman, The supreme reality, Brahman, is like the sun, which just by being enables all life forms to confirm into their diverse manifestations, each one responding to the same sunlight. Everything bursts into bloom, and yet the sun is not concerned with neither flowers or water, with neither clouds or rain. But because of the sun, all that burst into bloom, all life forms, come into dynamic manifestation. Much in that same way, once we realize our wholeness, in other words, holiness, our wholeness, we are no longer individual caretakers of any particular aspect of existence. We are no longer individual caretakers. We are the harmony, the oneness. So powerful and great is the manifestation, the presence that this oneness, this harmony is, and life force of those whose role it is to be the servants of that totality. So once you realize this wholeness that you are, this holiness that you are, so powerful is this presence that you are, the manifestation, the life force presence of these ones who recognize this, whose role is to be the servant of that totality. This is why you become a servant. Once you wake up to this, it is, you can't help but to spread this in such a subtle manner as just by being, simply being, just like the sun, your simple presence. You don't have to go telling everybody. You just being who you are and as you are, and just as your journey as you go along, knowing what you know and seeing as you see and viewing from the eye location that you're viewing from. Your manifestation, your radiance, it changes. Such is the presence of this is so profound. It is so powerful. The very presence is so powerful that people can't help but notice. It's impossible not to notice because your radiance is different. Your energy is different. Energy is felt. Your energy is different. And you shouldn't want to do it because you want people to look at you that way. You should do it because you want to confirm for yourself. And once you confirm for yourself, it is automatic anyway, because you already are that. You're just not aware of it. And so you don't radiate and resonate that. You don't reflect that because you're not aware of your true self. Once you become aware of it, it's like someone who knows who they are. They walk in a different state of confidence and awareness. They radiate differently because they know who they are. You know thyself now. You're aware of your true self now. It's not about knowing all the different ancient languages and everything. All of that is great. But it does nothing for you if you do not know yourself. You miss the goal. You're still caught up in the journey. You must not miss the goal. You must not miss your destination, your target. If you're shot out the cannon, the joyride of being shot out of a cannon is great, but you still got to hit your mark, what you're being aimed at. What are the words pointing to? Don't get caught up in the words themselves. Notice what they're pointing to. That's why he say, what I point to is Brahman, the supreme reality. That's why he says that. What I point to is Brahman, the supreme reality. What I point to is Christ or Christos, the supreme reality, the self, the I am that I am awareness. Brahman, the supreme reality, alone is real. So saying Brahman is just like saying the Christ or the Christos or the Christ. The supreme reality alone is real. This supreme reality known as Brahman or Christ or Christ alone is real. That alone is real, the reality, the truth. Beyond gender, beyond opposites, and in whose presence, through consciousness and mind, the play of interrelated opposites is danced. But Brahman itself is not held inside that play of phenomena. Brahman is the supreme reality, untouched. It is Brahman, and when it protects and when it projects itself as the instrument through which duality may manifest, it still cannot leave its own self. I'll read that again. Brahman, the supreme reality alone, is real, beyond gender, beyond opposites, and in whose presence, through consciousness and mind, the play of interrelated opposites is danced. But Brahman itself is not held inside that play of phenomena. Brahman is the supreme reality, untouched. It is Brahman, and when it projects itself as the instrument through which duality may manifest, it still cannot leave its own self. Brahman is not directly concerned with male or female, left or right, balance or imbalance. It knows nothing of all of this. All this is for humans, not for God, who is beyond all of concerns. Not okay. I read that again. Brahman, I missed it up. So I don't want to mix nobody up. I don't want to mess anyone up. Brahman is not directly concerned with male or female, left or right, balance or imbalance. It knows nothing of all of this. All this is for humans, not for God, who is beyond all concerns. It is completely beyond, a beyondness of subtlety, not of distance. For as the mind becomes more subtle and the consciousness more refined, conceptual transactions cease. I say again, it is completely beyond, a beyondness of subtlety, not of distance. For as the mind becomes more subtle and the consciousness more refined, conceptual transactions cease. Speculations, projections, and interpretations end. There remains only pure impersonal perception arising in the majesty of being. I read that again. It is completely beyond, a type of beyondness of subtlety, not of distance. For as the mind becomes more subtle and the consciousness more refined, conceptual transactions, they cease. Speculations, projections, and interpretations end. They stop. There remains only pure impersonal perfection or perception. There remains only pure and impersonal perception arising in the majesty of being, like beingness. As we merge with Brahman through the perfect understanding, all duality ends. So that's where it talks about the multiplicity of the singularity, returning back to the singularity. Because there's the singularity, the one. Then it expresses itself and splits itself into multiplicities, multiple people, individuals, and expressions. And as you come back to the awakened awareness of your true self as the one, the singularity, the duality of your experiencing, it ends, because you go back to recognizing duality itself comes from you. It's a concept that comes from the you that really is. You are really the singularity, acting out a role as a multiplicity, one of many, returning back to the awareness that is just the one. Okay? As we merge with Brahman through perfect understanding, all duality ends. No longer is there any sense of an entity that needs to determine anything. We are wholeness and move as unity. I say it again. As we merge with Brahman through perfect understanding, as we merge with the Christos awareness, consciousness, your original state, your original awareness, through perfect understanding, all duality ends. No longer is there any sense of an entity that needs to determine anything. We are wholeness and move as unity. Okay? Now there's a little saying here that I'm going to read, and that's going to be the end of it for this time, because I'm already 2 hours in for this live. And I know it's going to take a minute for them to upload. Okay? It's probably one of the longest videos I've made, maybe. But 2 hours is usually as long as it goes, or a little over 2 hours. Okay, this reads, over the millennia, so many beings have searched for truth, for the root of their own existence, and now their bodies have perished. Now it's our turn to live in the search for truth. By prioritizing that quest, we place ourselves on the cutting edge of the human experience. Will we find that which is imperishable, inexhaustible, timeless, and indestructible, that which we truly are? So it's a question posed. Will we find that which is imperishable, inexhaustible, timeless, and indestructible, that which we truly are? It's like a hypothetical question, because you already know the answer, because you are the answer, but you're not aware of it. The answer is to get you to look for yourself within yourself. I mean, the question is to get to look for yourself within yourself, because you're actually the answer to the question. You're not going to find the answer out there to the question. The question is posed to you and asked to you so that you would look to confirm that you already are the answer to the question. That's what it's all about. That's what this life is. It's the question to get you to look into yourself, to recognize that you are already the answer to the very question itself. You are the answer. The question is, where is the truth? What is the truth? You've looked everywhere else except yourself. Go within and look, Sankofa. Go back and retrieve. Look within yourself. Know thyself. It is great to know all of this other stuff in this experiencing called life. It's great to know. But the most profound and most beneficial and most important thing to know is the self that you are already. That without that self that you are, nothing could even be in the first place or the last place. This self that you are is the most profound and most important to know in all of existing throughout all time. It is the most important to know. That is why that our ancestors left etched in stone so that it would last throughout all time. Know thyself, not thy, because thy was Shakespearean and did not exist back then. Shakespearean expressed it as thy to personify it, but know the self. In our translated language, it reads know the self. But in Comedian language or Comedic language, it reads something different. It would be expressed and said in a different language, but the meaning and what the phrase is pointing to is the same as saying know thyself. When you hear know thyself, what is that pointing to? It's not pointing to something outside of you. It's pointing to what's within you. You have to go within. You have to look within. You have to set aside all the other things you acquired along the way. You must let it go for a minute so that you can look within to receive the gift that you already are. You are already this. You don't have to strive to be this. The only effort is to come back to the awareness of recognizing you already are this. That's all there is. That's all it ever was to be and to do. Is to awaken to your true self, to remember, to awaken to yourself. You already are the Christ, the Christos. Without the Christ or the Christos, nothing could be. Without Brahman, nothing could be. Without the supreme reality, nothing could be. Okay, with that being said, maybe next time, this next chapter is transcending our conditioning. So I will fold the page here, and next time I come back, whenever I get time, I'll read this one. I'll read this next chapter. And we're not even halfway through this book yet. And that's because I keep on making comments and expressing and explaining. But again, as I said before, I do that for people who are like me, that when they picked up a book like this or anything dealing with self-inquiry or Advaita, the mind makes it intimidating. The mind makes it so, oh, this is so different. This is so strange, and I can't understand it. And you have all kind of fears and reservations and all these things, and it makes you timid. It makes you paranoid sometimes. You get all these feelings and emotions and concepts, but those are all just roadblocks set before you to try to trip you up from really looking within yourself, from really looking at you. Who are you? What are you? What is your origin? What are you really like inside? Not what God's like in a book and somebody's expression of God, but what God as you really like. What is God as you really like? God is not different from you as the source of your consciousness is what we're referring to as you in this case. God is no different than that. Your person is different because that comes from your psychological mindset. But the one operating the body, the presence in the body operating it, that is God. That is no different. Why don't you get to know what that is right now, right here? That stretches beyond concept, beyond beliefs, beyond emotions. Get to know this, who you are, what you are, why you are, where you are. Confirm it. Look for yourself. Don't go to a book. This is not in a book. This is the living word. The living word is not in a book. The living word is what caused the book to be written. The living word doesn't need a book. The living word communicates without words. It is the experience that you must look within yourself, for yourself, as yourself, to confirm. And with that being said, that's all I got. I love you. You be well until we talk again. Eternal. I don't know how to stop it. How do we stop this? I'm new at this, so I'm trying to stop it.
No, anybody.